Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming back. I'm just so happy when you show up for these little videos, and sometimes it's just a blog or an article, but I really appreciate your audienceship, and it feels a little bit like a community almost developing. So, my guest today is Laura Friedman, originally from Colombia, and has lived in Canada for several years. And Laura is a filmmaker and a fiber artist, and has created a brilliant kind of new way of weaving, which is so inspiring and unique. So today we're going to have a little talk, a little conversation. So welcome, Laura. I'm so glad you could show up and come today.
Thank you so much. And I just want to say your mic might be hitting against your
My beard.
their beard. Yeah.
Okay.
I
Scratch.
just before
Thank you very much. Thank you.
no,
Scratchy sound.
not
Very
good.
good. Also, if you hear it breathing too much, usually I have a different mic, but it's in a different location today, so I'm back to my old
Okay.
headphones again. Okay. Great. So, welcome, and you have a beautiful, warm environment there.
Yes, the fire is on. The electrical fire is on in the middle of winter.
Yeah.
I'm in the basement of my parents' home where I live right now.
Oh, yeah, great, great, great. And I think I see a piece of your art up on the wall.
Yeah, far away in the distance is
Yeah.
one of my circular pieces. You can't
Great.
see the details, but
Oh,
it's one of I've been trying to gift it to my brother, but it's too big to ship in their suitcase every year. So now it's on this wall.
I see. Well, you could gift it to me. I'm like your big brother, maybe.
I should gift you one.
Well, I have some pictures, JPEGs that maybe during our conversation I'll
Hmm.
share the screen a little bit and people can get a glimpse of some
Okay.
of the creativity that is pouring out of you. So I guess I've sort of followed your life a little bit for the last several years, and we've
Hmm.
met several times. And I guess I'm curious. I remember you sort of disappeared for a while, and then you reemerged, and I learned through social media, I think, that you had been going through a real healing, well, a sickness, an illness, and the healing that came after that. And you had become very creative and entrepreneurial, so to speak, and seeking out various modalities to heal your condition, which was really inspiring. And
Hmm.
at the same time, maybe not too long after that, I started to see these examples of your art. And I know also that you have a spiritual background and faith and reference point within that domain. So myself, sort of as a healer, and I'm also interested in spiritual growth and
Hmm.
music and art, and I do my best to sing a flamenco tune once in a while. But that triangle, interrelationship between those three areas of life, I'm really interested in, and they seem to be a big part of your journey.
Hmm. Those being healing, art, and spirituality, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe I'll share a little bit about what made me start. I don't want to say start because that was when I think about it, I've always been making things with my hands since I was a kid. So I do a lot of inner child work, and in one of my recent meditations, or actually in several meditations, when we are to connect with the age when we felt the most authentic, I keep seeing this little young girl, maybe age 9, all the way to 13, 14, and I was just always weaving these bracelets. I was always making bracelets and working with what we call in Colombia shakiras, like beading and with fibers. And I think also growing up in Colombia, you're just surrounded by textile and art and you're just surrounded by it everywhere you walk on the street. Everybody makes things. It's just a part. So it was the air I breathe. So I wouldn't say I started when I got sick, but I definitely allowed myself to have a voice as an artist when I got sick. So I in 2020, when I think the whole world was asked to reset their lives.
Right.
I started getting these symptoms over a few months that eventually increased and developed into this crazy condition called trigeminal neuralgia, which is when the nerve and the artery in your brain touch or intertwine and create these electric shocks. And what I compare it to is kind of like contractions during labor in the brain, but it feels as if someone was taking a knife and electrocuting through your brain
Oh,
and making all of the nerves. For me, what happened was mostly on the right side, just extend across all the nerves in the teeth. If you've ever been to the dentist and never had anesthesia on one root canal, now imagine that across everywhere. So I would get these, the pain would escalate, and it got to a point where I would have these, I'd call them attacks that would last between like maybe a minute to 5 minutes. And it unfortunately, trigeminal neuralgia is also nicknamed, and you might see it sometimes in films, a little bit misrepresented, but the suicide disease,
right.
because it is a kind of, it is on this, on the pain scale, it goes higher than amputation or anything. It's the second most painful thing that a human can feel. So there is just no way to live if you're having these attacks. And this is how eventually I did feel after a few weeks. And it was hard because during COVID, there was no access to doctors and hospitals. So I didn't know if I had a tumor or anything. And so it was a very long journey that I could probably spend hours describing
Yeah.
that journey.
Right.
But eventually, around that time, I was also engaging in polyvagal theory and somatic and nervous system regulation and neural reprogramming. So I was going down my own personal healing after going through a lot of testing times, um, through just a lot of things that were happening. So I was starting to explore that. And now that I look back on it, after all of the research that I've done and after all the work that I've done, I actually think that one of the reasons I got this, which is a very rare thing, it's very rare for young women,
Mm.
usually people who are older. I think it was my body's way of shutting down. So I had a, accumulated quite a lot of traumatic events and things, as we all do. Um, I, yeah, I had not only in my personal life, but I think contextually things that had been building up. Like I left Colombia because of kidnapping threats. So that was a really big traumatic rupture at age 18.
Wow.
Just having to leave home
Yes.
within 5 hours and just come to a new country. I also I've been studying and have really explored epigenetics. And I think that there is a lot of intergenerational trauma, which is now a known term. It wasn't so much 10 years ago,
That's right.
but which is when I started exploring this. But I come from a family that has gone through two wars. So my mom was had to escape the Russian invasion in Slovakia, and my grandparents are Holocaust survivors. And so I have unknown heritage in Colombia.
Yes.
I mean, not that I don't know them, but I just don't know my biological ancestors
Right.
in Colombia. So I think that everything started to collapse in my body, and what I've learned is that the weakness, the when the body is in overdrive, like a computer that has gone into max level of, and then it shuts down or it freezes, the weakest part of the body will be attacked. So for me, I think it manifested in trigeminal neuralgia. Medically, they say there's no proof, there's no nothing. We don't know why it happens. We don't know why these things. And there's what you can do is actually you can get surgery where they open your brain, like a hole in your skull, and they go in and they put a padding between the nerve and the artery to separate so they're no longer making contact. And it's all connected to the vagal
Right.
nerve,
The
which
Vegas.
is
Yeah. Yeah.
the vagus nerve. Thank you.
That's right. Yeah.
Which is very interesting. But because I truly believe there is a relationship between disease, the body, uh, trauma, our nervous system, our mental and emotional health. I didn't want to get surgery. I started taking a bunch of medications. Eventually, there's one that worked for me. It's an anti-epileptic. it's an epilepsy medication. What happened is that it turned me into a zombie.
Mm.
So I was sleeping all the time. I was depressed. I couldn't do much. I couldn't look at screens. And I and so what could I do? I just had my hands, and I had to do something. So I just started making big versions of the bracelets that I used to do, and which is, with macrame. And I knew the principles of it, but I just went on YouTube and I just started
Oh,
making stuff. And
right.
um, eventually I just posted something and people reacted, and then I was like, oh, I should make more. And then I
Uh,
made more, and then this practice began. And because I didn't want to live like a zombie, and I said, this is not my life. I'm not destined to be this way. And um, at that time, I was very actively reading Joe Dispenza's work and taking a course as a somatic, um, like certification and all that. I thought, well, if Joe Dispenza healed himself from this crazy accident where he was told he would never walk again, he did it with his mind. So there surely I can. So combining uh, Western medicine, so to say, and a lot of different spiritual practices, I said, no, I'm going to give myself these amount of months. I'm going to get off the medication, and this is no longer gonna,
so
I
I'm
won't
just
need the
going to pause
surgery.
you. Um, that's well. First of all, that condition sounds excruciating. The pain, and then at the beginning, not knowing, the uncertainty and probably fear, um, and the suicide disease. My God! But how does a young woman from Colombia have that wherewithal to just say to the whole medical system, I guess, back off. I want to do this my way, and to have the confidence and the chutzpah to create your own healing path like that. Do you feel you always kind of had that independent spirit as a little girl, or do you feel that came through from the spirit of your ancestors, maybe, or your mom or your dad, or your faith, or
I think it's three things. I think it's um, number one, I would say it's the mercy of God and the nature of God.
mm,
I'm a Baha'i, and sometimes we refer to God as the unknowable essence.
yeah,
That is one of my favorite designations to what
right,
God is. So
yeah,
I think the unknowable essence, I've always, since I was a kid, I've always felt that this unknowable essence has my back, or there's just this certainty that there is something much greater that is holding us in its grace. Um, and nature is to prove for it, right?
yeah,
The other thing I would say is definitely the community and examples that I saw in my life, right? So hearing how my grandparents um, survived in crazy and miraculous ways the Holocaust, and how they escaped, and how they were in prison, and how they almost
wow,
died. And
yeah,
well, some of my
mm,
family did die, and then how my
yes,
mom left. And so I think there have been times where if something feels hard, I say, but look at what my grandparents went through, and they made it. And so
yeah,
I do lean on that, and I do lean on the, I mean, not everyone might relate to this, but I do lean on an intuitive ancestral memory that I feel
hmm,
within me, and we probably all have that, and it's just
yeah,
about being in
right,
tune.
yes, being open to it.
Um,
So um, that the sense that there's assistance, that the unknowable essence, is that what you said? The
mhm,
creator can cushion the blows, and because of your history, ancestry, you may be hardwired for survival in a way that some people are not so much. Um, so it's very interesting. And then, so another little question: when you said when you were sort of at your worst and you took out your materials and started to weave a little bit, bracelets
mhm,
again, like when you were 9 and 11 years old.
yeah,
So was that a kind of a turning point, like somatically? What was the experience of using your
mhm,
hands and picking up those materials and elements and
mhm.
going through a kind of a repetitive movement? Did that
Yes,
help to calm you down at least, or?
Absolutely. I think it brought me back life because I was in the medications really numbed me out and I just felt so terrible. Um, there is the in addition to actually being able to touch fiber, there's also something very satisfying when you're completing a row of knots or when you're weaving through a warp. So you're probably familiar with EMDR
Yes.
and this repetitive left hand movements that we
Mm.
sometimes do with our eyesight, it actually helps to increase the communication between brain hemispheres, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that helps it helps with the traumatic memories and it supports integration.
Yes.
So I didn't know that at the time. Now I know it because I've studied it. But this rhythmic pattern of signals and even accomplishment of doing something, I think it created us signals of safety and it also makes you be in your body because when you're in a lot of pain, you wanna you wanna leave your body, but also you sometimes leave your body. I had some really crazy experiences when I was having those attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had like, visions and I had beings visit me and things I can't explain. So I was very much outside of my body.
Right.
I don't have a strong memory of what every day was like. What triggers these attacks are anything from a brush, like someone touching you like this,
Mm.
someone lifting your hair will trigger an attack, drinking the wrong kind of temperature. I didn't brush my teeth for 3 months. I couldn't.
Right.
There's just no way I could put
Mm.
even a
Yeah.
toothbrush in my mouth
Wow.
until I found the medication that stopped the pain signal. It was
Mm.
still happening, but the pain signal was there. So this now that I know I was in my body, and I also have to say that I have I've had a regular practice in ecstatic dance, not exotic dance,
No.
people, but ecstatic dance,
Sure. Sure.
which I've been doing for
I,
now 15 years.
oh, fantastic. Yeah.
So, for someone who in ecstatic dance, it's about movement, it's not about dance, and you're
Right.
responding to the music that the person plays, and there's no verbal communication, and it's a drug and alcohol free zone. So it
Yes.
really helps you. So for someone like me who's always been dancing and in movement to suddenly just be this potato on the couch, then going seeking movement even through the hands um, felt like an unconscious answer
Mm-hmm.
and probably helped reconnect
To
even
be
like
to become embodied again. Well, that's
yeah.
the in bioenergetics, for example. Also, the Hakomi method has the different
Hmm.
character types that even came from Freud, the different developmental
Mm.
stages. And the very first one is around the time of birth, just before, during, and a couple of months afterwards, when we're very tiny and vulnerable. And if things don't go right, for example, a
Mm.
harsh environment during birth or separation from the mother, things like that, our little mind starts to develop a belief system that the world
Hmm.
is not welcoming. I'm not safe here. And so what we tend to do is go inside to get away from the world, the hands and the feet, so the circulation goes into the core of the body. But then we think,
Mm.
well, the core of the body is part of the body is part of the world, so up into the head. It's a little bit farther away, right? And
Yeah.
that's where we have the intellectuals and the academics, and then we even figure out, well, the head is part of the body part of the world, so we go out of the head, and that's
Uh,
when we can have schizophrenia and a very negative octave of that condition, or visionaries and mystics being able to, the great mathematicians and artists
mm.
and psychics perhaps that are so sensitive. In fact, we changed it from the schizoid character type, which has a very heavy clinical association, to the sensitive analytic. And it sounds like you have a degree of sensitivity which shows up in your art too, um, that is so advanced, that manifested in the condition that you had,
Mm.
and like the slightest, tiniest little interference with your
Mm.
boundary, your face, your skin, and you reacted violently. So it sounds like you were really living there for a while on an edge.
Yeah.
trying to avoid the slightest a hair on your cheek or so you must
Yeah,
develop some kind of superpowers or
actually, yeah. So, we all get tested and we all have different things that come, and I think the human condition sometimes might be to curse our misfortunes and say, like, why me and why this and how come everybody else gets to have, um, I think it's a shared experience and sometimes we think we're the only ones, but,
right.
but there's this story that is in the Baha'i writings that continues to serve this example for me. It's in the Seven Valleys written by Baha'u'llah that talks about the story of the Valley of the Seeker, where Layli and Majnun, they're two lovers, and Majnun is in love with Layli, and he just obsesses with her. And then obviously, please read it because I'm
Hmm.
not explaining it poetically, but as
Hmm.
and befitting as the way that Baha'u'llah writes.
All right.
But Layli disappears one day, and Majnun goes crazy, and he goes and looks for her and jumps all over the city. And then a watch is in desperation because he lost his Layli, and then this watchmen start chasing after him, and he curses them. Why are there these watchmen following me
Like a
and leave
guard, you
me?
mean? Like a policeman?
Yeah,
Yeah.
these they start chasing and he doesn't understand it. And he just, oh, whoa, me, why are they chasing me? And little does he know, then they back him up and then he has to climb this wall and then he falls, and on the other side of the wall there is Layli, who he had lost, looking for a ring in a garden, and he's been reunited with his beloved. But meanwhile, it is these watchmen that were chasing him then led him there. And then in it, it says that if we can see how is it? If we can see the end,
In the
the
beginning.
the beginning,
Yeah.
the beginning in the end, and the end in the beginning. Anyway, so this is a story that has really helped me through many different challenges. So when I was going through it, I said, okay, well, obviously there's things I'm going to learn from this, and I'm going to choose to see the end in the beginning. It's going to be, I might have to get surgery. Surgery in the brain is not good. It can cut your life down. It can have terrible repercussions. But and now I'm forgetting what your question is.
Well, just it by developing those super
Oh,
faculties of
yes,
sensitivity, perception, and observing, you were sort
right.
of, and then you started weaving again, making the bracelets. It sort of called your consciousness back into your body, um, and
But
then that. Okay, go ahead.
I now remember where I was going with this
All right. Okay.
with this story is that you talked about this hypersensitivity to things,
Yeah.
um, and this quality of being able to. I think we all have it, but the quality of being able to see the end when you're in the moment of challenge, right? So, in the moment that you could say the morning moment that a hair touched my cheek and created an attack, but also I became very sensitive to what would trigger these things. Because over time, then what I realized was that I tried food, I did every possible thing, food, this, sleep, da da da. And what would trigger these things was stressful situations.
Of course. Yeah. Makes
So I
sense.
became so this trigeminal neuralgia became like my watchman
Mm.
that lead me to my beloved, right? So you
Yeah.
could say my beloved is my spiritual, I don't know,
Harmony and yeah.
my like my nirvana or my like ecstatic moment,
Yeah.
or it could also be what I achieve through my art, right? So I started to create this relationship between pain, um and if I was in stressful situations, it is now to this day my alarm that something is off balance. I am in a situation that is too toxic. I must leave it. Or there is a boundary with someone that is being crossed because I will get
Mhm.
little sharp pains. So this painful thing has become this alarm system. And then I know the things that I need to do to stay regulated. So I spend a lot of time taking care of myself and had to change some of my lifestyle and who I was around and what I allowed, even the type of work that I did.
So it's as if your immune system has developed a method of communicating with your cognitive awareness, and so when you get even approaching that boundary where things are not going to be good, they're out of alignment perhaps,
Hmm.
then you have a system, an early warning system, beep, beep,
Hmm.
like a beep beep that
Yeah.
that warns you to back off or change your plans or take a second look at it.
Yeah.
And yeah, wonderful. So so it really sounds like well into the process, even before the full healing came about, you were already sort of onto that concept, that philosophy that through suffering and pain and trials and tests and tribulations, there is a learning, and it actually helps us to, if we're open, and it helps us to veer towards our purpose and our
Hmm.
fulfillment. And so, why complain? I mean, you have got to complain a little bit, but why
Yeah.
keep saying, "Oh, why is it? Why me?" It's not fair. Uh,
And I still say that if I get symptoms. And I recently discovered I got a new set of symptoms and I
oh dear.
went on this journey. The Canadian system, unfortunately, was incredibly slow, giving me years, appointments a year and a half away. So I went to Colombia
Oh,
to meet with doctors within a week. And those symptoms confirmed that I also have a congenital disease condition called Chiari malformation type 1.
hmm.
Chairi.
Sorry.
A lot there's a lot of people who have it, but to different degrees, but it's when your at the atlas bone in your
Right.
skull is deformed.
Uh,
And so your cerebellum
yeah.
actually, which is your cerebellum is held in the brain like this, but
Hmm.
when you have Chiari, it drops and it starts to kind of melt into your spinal cord.
Hmm.
And so I've had that my whole life, and all these other symptoms that I had confirmed, oh, this is why I have all these things.
Uh,
Um, Thankfully, I'm not in a place where I need surgery, but because of what I went through all that, now I know how to manage. And when I do get a flare up, I'm not perfect. I'm not just sitting and meditating and reaching enlightenment. Uh,
I can imagine.
yeah.
So, when you were 2020, so that's 5 years ago, only 5 or 6 years
Hmm.
ago, and
Yeah.
so you had two children, right?
Hmm.
And who were 10 years
God,
old, something like that?
yeah, maybe
8 or 9.
eight and 10.
Wow. So how was that, having
Oh my gosh.
family and going through that intense healing process?
Well, we were all in these isolated, like my parents couldn't kind of be around much,
Yeah.
depending
The
it
bubble,
depends.
yeah.
The whole bubbles and w- it was extremely challenging. And at that time, my ex and I had already separated, so we were living in single parent homes.
Right.
And I'll say it was not a good time for me. And I did have, but you know what? I posted on Facebook, like you said,
Uh-huh.
because I just said, well, at this point, all I can do in addition to what I'm doing is ask people for prayers
Right.
and ask people to just have visions of me healing. Because for a while, I didn't know what I had. I thought maybe I had a tumor or something.
Yeah.
Um, and I had people deliver food. I had so many people
Mm.
praying. If there was no shutdowns, then I
Mm.
had my mom. This was over a period of a few years. So eventually I met uh Kyle. Well, I knew Kyle, but Kyle and I kind of got started to get to know each other, who I'm
Yeah.
now married to.
Right.
And toward he was my nurse, basically.
Oh, that's cool.
So and my kids, there was a while I didn't see them because
Oh.
my mom took them because I just
Uh,
couldn't.
right.
Uh, but I have memories of once I was better, the kids and I would be in a room and I would be making things and they'd be watching TV and we'd just sit there being like, okay, the world is shut down.
Just hanging
But
out, yeah.
yeah, but I like that. I wonder what they'll say when they grow up of their memories of this time.
Right.
Like, oh yeah, mom, I had this thing we don't know. Or will they have created some kind of trauma around it?
Maybe a little bit of both, sure. I
Yeah,
mean, that's the way life is, the bitter and the sweet, the yin and the yang, and you can't have one without the other, really.
yeah.
It's the dissonance in music, the the off notes that actually make the music more interesting
Mm.
and beautiful.
Oh, nice. I
But
like that.
they may have a little missing experience. A lot of people did actually during the
Mm.
COVID. But to be able to be with you at your side, hanging out and witnessing you, their caretaker, um, going through extreme pain and upset, but still being there, being the one they could depend on for cooking them lunch or whatever. And I would bet that it will be there may be a little trauma thrown in just for fun. I mean, we all have to have something to go to see the therapist for someday, right? But mostly it'll be an empowering experience.
I hope so.
Yeah, and
Maybe they'll watch this interview and in a few years.
they'll say, that's now
And
I
they still see
understand.
me. They like I really try to show them who I am. I hope that they're watching me.
Hmm.
In the sense of there are days when I have to go to bed or
Yeah,
they've seen me deal with this, and
right.
I don't want to create this sense of um the body is something that is not good and that creates pain. Like I don't want to
Mhm.
transmit those kind of messages, so that always weighs on me a little bit.
Yeah.
But then I also will have my little corner side studio in our house that's just all my yarn is everywhere and everything, and they're watching me, or I just did an exhibit and they came and they saw and they see me making things. So I also hope that they can see that even through these physical challenges, you can still be active, you can still
Hmm.
make things and find your own way.
That's right.
um that's, I hope, something they
Yeah.
learn.
Not just survival, but beyond survival, making life beautiful while we survive.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've whetted my appetite when you mentioned yarn. So you're spinning a good yarn there, telling the story of
Yeah.
your illness and the healing and the spirituality. So let's get into the art. I
Okay.
downloaded a few of your pictures, JPEGs,
Sure.
and I could share the screen, and maybe you could
Sure.
just describe a little bit about how it came about. Yeah,
I don't know which ones you chose, so I'm excited to see.
yeah. There, I tried to get ones that were a bit different from each other.
Yeah.
Um, well, maybe we'll start with this one to begin with.
Okay. Yeah, so this is I didn't invent this. I just looked at what other people made, and for a while I was obsessed with circle pieces, and I still make them and people ask me to make them.
Yeah.
Um Obviously, I think in a lot of spiritual teachings and in a lot of spiritual practice, this concept of the spiral or the circle or the eternal or this cycles is just, and also for myself, being in a woman's body dealing with monthly cycles
Wow.
where we're going through spring, winter, fall, winter, spring, summer,
Mhm.
fall within the cycles of
Yeah.
our menstruation cycle is
Yeah.
something that's been ever present. So this is a combination of like, in most of my materials I use recycled sari silk,
Hmm.
cotton, wool,
You mean sorry, like
merino.
the Indian dress? Oh.
Yeah, so there's many people who recycle the sari silk and
Oh.
they'll cut them into strips.
Ah.
So that really bright turquoise that you see
Right.
on the
Yeah.
left, that's sari silk, and I just love the idea of reusing materials, and the saris have these
Mm.
stunning colors.
Right.
Most of my materials I like to source from people in
Mm.
Canada. There's Roving Textiles.
Hmm.
She has people who are, I think, and there's a few that spin in Eastern Canada, and there's color dyeing. So these circular pieces for me are very much about reinforcing this idea that things will come in cycles and over,
Yes.
and they'll repeat.
It's very, very powerful. As you say, the circle is symbolic of the sun and the universe and the heart,
Hmm.
even, and um, but also the spiral within the circle and the different colors. I mean, there's some gold there. It almost looks like the gold of
Hmm.
springtime, and then the cooler colors of winter, white, and
Hmm.
um, there's a lot going on there. And of course, the different thicknesses, like the thick braiding on the outside. Yeah, you've got some braiding in there too, which is like the
Yeah.
whole weaving. In the indigenous culture, the even the men in in honor of the women who braid their hair, usually in one big braid. The men have two, and there's
Hmm.
three pieces that are woven. One represents the Creator, one is the earth, and the other is us, our spirit. So that braiding, it's like where you're connecting and bringing things together, but it's also very compact. And there's so much energy because it looks like a vortex. Like it could be going inward
Yeah.
into the essence or outward into
Or
the
outward.
cosmos. Yeah,
Yeah.
very cool. Yeah. Okay. Next, I think I have to shut
Close
down.
it and reshare it again.
Yeah, there used to be a way that you could share. So this one is more recent, I believe. Okay.
That was so. This is actually for parents of my one of my closest friends, Esther Maloney. Her and her brother commissioned me to make this for their parents' 50th anniversary.
Okay.
Sadly, her father just passed away recently.
Oh.
In Montreal, I was able to go to the funeral, and
Mm.
um, this piece just meant so much more because of that. So I sometimes like doing what I call legacy commissions, which is where um, someone's story is tied to the colors and the shapes and what I use. In this case, it was a 50th anniversary. I don't know if you can see, but on the left side, there's a white little wave, and there's a little chain of jewels that I kind of put there. There's 50 of them representing the 50 years, but
Oh.
um, I asked the couple, what are your favorite colors? When you think of each other, what colors come to mind?
Right.
What has, what has, so I know these are details that unless you actually read
Hmm.
about it, you might not know, but there's these white knotted areas that
Right.
I think about marriage and like and the turbulent times that can happen in a couple's life, like the
Hmm.
tests, the
Hmm.
tangling, the whatever, if it's life or each other. And then they also have two children, so that for me was these two big braided areas are the couple,
Oh.
and then there's these brown rust colored braids that represent their two children.
Mm.
So it's very abstract and um but that's what came to mind, and those were kind of the colors that they described they feel. I like thinking of people as colors
Right.
sometimes,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
which is in line, I guess, with
Good.
the energy points for the chakras, right?
That's right. Absolutely. At the in the esoteric teachings, our astral body, which is the emotional body, can have a lot of different colors depending on our mood and so on. And then
Hmm.
the mental body, which reaches farther out, is often a pale yellow color and so
Mm.
on. Yeah. Wow. So were they happy with
Yeah,
the
I
product?
think
Yeah,
so.
I'm
She
sure they
she
were.
put it over her bed, and
Ah.
now that he's passed, I wonder, I wonder if that takes on a new meaning now, and that's
Mhm.
also the hope is that I think my style is changing. Like if I was to make this today, I would probably do it very different. But that's what it was at the time.
Mm.
And so hopefully, this could be passed down to another child and
Well, what I'm thinking is at the head of the behind them when they sleep.
hmm.
So
Hmm.
when we go into the dream state, it's in a way it's like at death, according to the Egyptians and the
Hmm.
Tibetans and so on, and the Mayan Indians, that we leave our body and behind, and another part of us goes out around the world, and we meet people and have experiences. And
Hmm.
so, in his last days or months, when he was dreaming, probably with his death approaching, there was some consciousness, like a little seed of sometimes maybe unconscious consciousness, if you know what I mean. Like it
Hmm.
starts to come into the awareness, a preparation for the next world or the next cycle, as you say.
Hmm.
And that, so when he would leave his body to go out in a dream and then come back again in the morning, that he sort of developed a pattern that with that piece of art there, it sort of represents the waves almost, or
Mm,
of experience, and movement, a lot of movement, and that he may take that with him, that image with him of the
mm,
artwork, and when he remembers this life and his loved ones and so on, like his daughter, your friend, and somehow he would breathe through that image. Just making it up, but um, things
but
like that,
you're,
things like
yeah,
that can happen. Yeah, like a
that's beautiful.
connection between his former life when he was in the physical body, his current life now where he's in the world of the spirit, and then his family, the relationships with his
Mm,
family, and even you as the artist. You can play a
mm,
part in all this. Wow, what an honor to be creating this kind of art that is partly based in trauma, you might say, and uh, the experience of hardship, and to be able to share with others art that is not only art for art's sake, entertaining, beautiful, but maybe moving, or maybe it has a life force in it
mhm.
that can affect other people as they touch it and look at it.
Yeah, and these legacy commissions that I do are can be linked to wedding anniversaries, but also to death. They can be linked to birth,
Yeah.
to a
Uh-huh.
milestone, to a chapter in someone's life.
Right.
Like I'm going through a rebirth and I need this image that will constantly remind me. And,
Hmm.
some people are drawn to paintings, some to sculptures. So I
Oh,
think it might be a taste thing too, is do you
yes.
want something that's tapestry? But obviously I'm biased, but I think there is something very powerful about the fibers and the tactile
Hmm.
and the natural. So I don't like to work with too much synthetic things, but um I mean the weft and the warp have been part of civilization even before we discovered writing on the walls. Like one of the first
Yeah.
signs of humans or Homo sapiens having rational thought was when they found hemp cloth
Uh-huh.
and they noticed that there was a weft and like, that there was this pattern, a warp and a weft, and some intelligence had to do that. So there's something for me that's very extremely ancestral that goes back to our early origins. That so when someone chooses to honor a milestone through this, it's a huge honor for me, and I have to kind of put myself aside and just try to
Hmm.
think what how can it serve them.
Right. Almost like part of a ritual which is created or built to represent a certain situation or a passage. And so the colors and the textures that you choose are aligned with the significance of that passage for
Hmm.
the customer, the person that's going to receive it.
Hmm.
So if any of the Substack viewers are wanting one of these, uh, if they have an upcoming marriage or divorce or whatever, birth in the family or
A death of sorts, whatever it
enlightenment,
is.
I'm going to put your, not your email address, but your website, which is
Sure.
really beautiful, at the bottom underneath the video
Okay.
so people
I
can
appreciate it.
contact you. Yeah. Well, yeah. I love to, when I know people, especially who are artists, musicians, or painters or whatever, I love to support them. Not that
Hmm.
I'm rich or anything, but I love to have pieces of art from people I know. So maybe I'll commission you to make like a 2 square inch weaving
Yeah,
for
I'd
me.
be happy to make
I'm
something.
just
You've been a
kidding.
long time friend.
I'm just kidding. Okay, no, next we have a couple more, and
Sure.
let's try this one here. I was curious about is that a
Hmm.
light behind it, the sun, or a lamp, or
Yeah, this is a close-up of the recent exhibit I worked on. I
oh,
don't know if you'd have I sent you there's another image that has the full
yes,
scale. Maybe you can look at it after, but this is
ah,
a close-up of
okay, right,
an exhibit I did with Paris Osabit and a few other collaborators. You might know Bahia Marks and Emily Dragoman.
uh huh,
And about 40 plus artists, choreographers, musicians, light specialists, designers, art. It was a huge collaboration. It was
Yeah.
called Sabze,
Uh-huh.
and it was up in the Aurora Cultural Center for 2 months. And it's an exhibit about inspired by the story of the 10 women of Iran who were killed because of their beliefs in Iran in the 1980s.
Yeah.
Um, and it's based on a story, and in the story, the character is growing sabze, which is sprouts,
Yeah.
which is a tradition in Iran around New Year's every year, Nowruz.
Mm.
And so we created this exhibit that there's a 12 by 8 meter structure. So these little knots over here that are hanging
Yeah.
are knots. I made hundreds and hundreds of knots
Mm.
on this 12 by 8 meter organic structure that represent these little knots. And so the idea of the sabzi or the sprouts when they grow is, and the reason why Parisa contacted me was because when you look at the sabzi, the sprout plant, you notice that the leaves are there, but underneath there is a carpet of roots. And so all the roots are intertwined and they make this carpet like
Hmm.
structure. And so we focus in this exhibit on the idea that collective spiritual, there is something as collective spiritual growth. So we are all growing spiritually and we're all interconnected. And so, like the sabze, we have to kind of be together in order to grow. But as soon as you separate us, then it all dies and it all collapses. And
Right.
everybody grows at different rates and at different speeds and ways. And so that was a close up. There was a light behind and there was a screen projection of a film, of a video of dancers who created a piece based on this idea of growth of a sprout. And so the screen projected on this structure and it created this crazy 3D vision of fiber with video projection.
I see. Okay.
And this was actually across the the structure was a I made this triptych, which is also inspired by this idea of the Sabzin. I don't know if you can tell, but at the left is this kind of abstract. There is a limitation when you're working vertically of the kind of shapes you can make,
Sure.
but there's a seed, and so this seed kind of sprouts. And in the triptych is called sprouting growth. So there's
Mhm.
this idea that we grow, we sprout, and then this movement just charges forth. And so
Right.
I just wanted to do this continuation. It's large scale.
Yes.
These are all kind of like 4 by 6 feet.
Wow.
Um, that just show the energy and how eventually we all lose this form of seed that we came in, and we just become this like this flow of energy, and we're all interconnected.
Mm-hmm.
And something that really I like to play with a lot is with negative space and with emptiness. So
Yes.
if you can see, the pieces are projected out, and there's places where I didn't weave because I was really interested in the shadow that it creates.
Yes.
And what are those things in our life that we don't see, that we can't prove materially, but we have a feeling are there,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. Well, the I love this. Well, I guess they all have that shadow on the wall, but the farthest one you could see how it is reflected on the wall there, the shadow.
Hmm.
Well,
That
like
one has the most empty space. That's why.
it does. Yeah. Right. Well, it's true. Like what we like going back to music again. It's the when there's a rest, when there's a note or a beat or
Hmm.
two where there's no notes, it can be so poignant, and it can really bring life into the when the notes come back, there's more color, more energy because of that, what they call a
Right,
rest. Yeah. So there's the
right.
seen and the unseen, the conscious mind, the unconscious mind, and we have access. We could have access to all of it. Um, so when we when we learn to calm down, which you did, you had to, right?
Yeah.
An important part of the healing was to be able to get out of your mind where the fear was and the agitation, and to slow
Mm.
down the vibration and eventually get into the body itself. So that learning, like in polyvagal, they call that there's the ventral, the dorsal, but then
Hmm.
there's the fight, flight, or freeze. And you were
Sympathetic
pretty,
and parasympathetic.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly. So, and you had really gone into the freeze, the shutdown phase of
Hmm.
the numbness, right? Where there was, so from that and coming back into full livelihood and uh, life force, the
Hmm.
prana, as the Indians call it, the chi energy. So, have you? Just going to go back to our screen again. We should wind down soon as well.
Yeah.
Have you taught this to others at all? Are you interested in that maybe sometime?
Yeah, actually, I am very interested in that.
Oh,
I I've been working in film as well. I'm a
yeah,
filmmaker
right.
and but recently I've been really called to return to kind of design and art and really focus on this much more than I have in the past. I am also like I also have a degree in education, so I also teach. So I've actually been thinking that I want to teach this.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm thinking
even
others have
you,
others shown some interest and asked you what your technique,
yeah,
how they could do
yeah,
it too.
they have, and I always say, oh, I'm not teaching anymore. But that is one of the things for my
Sorry.
new year is that I'd like to. I have done a few classes for youth, just very short ones, and they make the most beautiful things. That's the thing is that anybody can do this. We've
Mhm.
been doing this as humanity forever, really forever, since the beginning of our time. There's many wonderful weavers and fiber artists that are way ahead of me in terms of artistic expression. You know, I'm self-taught. I just do it intuitively. I don't think I've yet found my true voice or artistic whatever,
Mhm.
but um
The best is yet to come.
yeah, it kind of feels like that. Like
I'm just thinking of
it's time.
you could take your. We've hardly spoken of your filmmaking
Yeah.
gift, but an interesting project would be to go around the world to several cultures,
Oh my gosh.
indigenous, and to find the people that are doing their own form of weaving, the materials they use, talk to
What
them.
a dream.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yes. Who wants to fund it?
Educational.
Oh, I would be a great project.
This is from Paraguay. Oops.
Oh, nice.
Oh, it's not showing up for some reason.
No, I can
Ah,
see it.
there we go.
Oh, the other way.
That
Oh,
was
I
the
even
back.
liked it the other way.
Yeah, it
Oh,
was
that's
interesting, wasn't it?
stunning.
It's called Nyanduti, which is means spider,
Oh.
from the spider, and it's very fine.
Wow.
There's a word for it, and they make bedspreads and tablecloths and shirts and blouses and
That's gorgeous.
isn't that nice?
Looks like some kind of stitching, huh?
Yes, exactly, with very fine needlework. Yeah.
You know, something I always think about, I remember when I first started, I did all these macrame things, and people say, oh, I used to do that in the 70s. And then I did a market, a Latin market downtown Toronto. And people would walk by and say, oh, that's so cute. And that's so cute. Oh, it's a cute craft. And I think, um, I really want to challenge people to not see this as a cute craft, you know?
Hmm.
Um, there was a time when being a tapestry weaver put you at the top of society, you know,
Right.
and the this idea of the spinster,
Right.
the one like the
Oh yeah.
people use this demeaning word of like the spinster, the old spinster in
Has
the
a negative
corner
connotation
has a
sometimes. Yeah.
negative connotation, but it comes from the way that the the cultural shift in the
That's
industrial
right.
revolution and when men stopped doing it and then the women
Mhm.
started doing it's all this cultural stuff that we don't realize. Actually, if you look at the way we talk, we all of the principles of weaving are embedded in our language.
Yeah.
You weave through traffic.
Right.
You let's
Been
you spin to the story.
right.
You
Uh,
find the through thread of what you're saying. Like there's so much language that we use in this, and so I'm trying. I think I struggle to try to elevate it to
mhm.
not be this
Oh.
craft. Like what you showed me is not just a craft, some cute thing that some people made.
It's come
It's
from generations. Yeah. Well, I'm not sure if you are familiar with Sufism, but
mhm,
the language that the Sufis use, their spiritual language, is all about weaving. And for them, the weaving profession is the highest of all,
mm,
and it's considered sort of like in Judaism, you have the Cohens, the high priests,
mhm,
So the
mhm,
weavers in Sufism are like that elite
mhm.
professional elite, but all of the weaving is contains spiritual lessons, and that's why they use those terms. So I'm not sure where you'd find that information, but I'm sure you could
Wow.
add to your your story.
Hmm.
Well, just tell us one little thing about your filmmaking because that's a big part of what you've been doing for the last several years too.
Yeah, I mean, I started visual and media arts, so I have done all kind of arts, but 5 years ago, I started a production company called Wrapped Productions with my
Right.
husband Kyle, and
Yeah.
um, we've both been filmmaking for a long time. I used to be a cinematographer, and then because of health and motherhood, I had to switch and
Yeah.
have been mostly producing, but I've been able to go around the world doing documentaries for the Baha'i international community at the United Nations, and I would say most of the films I'm proud of have been documentaries. A lot of the work in the recent years has been with the indigenous community,
Yeah.
and supporting and helping with youth to tell stories and training and
Hmm.
anything. Really, the only stories that I like to work on at this point are it has to uplift humanity, it has to advance a discourse, it has to bring us back to our spiritual selves. So I'm not really engaged in the pop culture kind of thing that for the money. It's more like there has to be a purpose. So
Good for you.
yeah,
Well, inshallah, the money will come too, the funding, and when the time is
that's the
right,
hardest part. Yeah.
it is. But sometimes a person with values, ethics, the beginning can be slow
Mm,
and challenging. It takes a lot of courage and
mm,
faith, and perseverance, patience. But you build, just like the weaving itself. It seems sort of tedious, ding, 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 but when
true.
you get to the final product, it's like, wow, look what has been
Yeah.
created, and it attracts other people. So hopefully your work will attract customers and investors and
Mm.
patrons, maybe. Who knows?
From your lips to God's ears, may that be
Exactly.
so. Thank you
Well,
for
Laura, yeah, Laura, thank you so much. And I used to live in South America for 5 years, so I
tu
always
español es
love.
muy bueno.
Sí, sí.
Hablas español muy bien.
Hasta la próxima. Más o menos,
Yeah.
sí, con la práctica
Mm.
continua, ¿no? But I love to have that little connection with people from Latin America, and the culture
Hmm.
there. It's quite different than North America.
Yeah.
So you bringing some of that color, not only that, but your ancestry from the Holocaust in Europe, Slovakia, and then Colombia.
Mhm.
And wasn't your dad a bit of a shaman?
So yeah, my stepdad, who
Stepdad, yeah, yeah.
yeah, he passed, but he was like my father, Edgar
Edgar,
Hernandez.
right, right.
He's actually a continuous source of spiritual support and inspiration for me. And I feel like since he passed 2 years
Yeah.
ago, he has been very involved in any of the projects that I do.
Uh,
He was an architect.
yeah.
He was in the last years of his life. He passed suddenly.
Oh,
Was unexpected, but he was playing with rocks. And later, recently, I understood when I went. I was invited to a sweat lodge in Winnipeg
yeah.
with a community we're doing a film with, and I realized why he has all these rocks around the house. Like he has these rocks hanging everywhere that I've kept, because he was taking care of the grandmother and the grandfather rocks for the sweat lodges that he would help
Beautiful,
run. I think
beautiful.
that's why. But anyways, yeah, he has was and continues to be a big source of spiritual,
You're right.
I don't know how to say, like
I
sustenance or guidance.
just met him once briefly, but
Yeah,
he had a real energy. I would have loved to get to know him more,
yeah.
but
He was a yoga teacher for most of his life and
right.
very enlightened, I think, and just,
Mhm.
a pure light in the world.
Well, you're carrying on the tradition, and from both lineages, and
Hmm.
your children too, who are amazing. They're both teenagers now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Who would have thunk?
They're they're fun. They're fun kids.
They
I
are.
love
They
them.
are. Yeah. Well, Laura, muchas
Thank you.
gracias por tu presencia, tu espíritu y tu mensaje sanador. Eh,
Gracias a ti.
Muy interesante to combine those concepts of healing, illness and healing, spirituality, and art, and how they inform one another and
Hmm.
actually all contribute to the same journey.
Hmm. Thank you for the space, and I'm so happy you're making space for people to share their stories. And
It's a
you
lot
know,
of
it's
fun. I really
yeah,
enjoy it. It's inspiring. So
yeah,
usually I begin
wonderful.
with this, but it's the Nepalese bowl.
Sure.
It's very beautiful, actually.
Wow.
May all mankind be one. Hasta la
Thank you.
vista.
Hasta luego. Thank you.